Okay. I think I am streaming. So this is also a test because the interview I had with Political Avenger, something was up. The live stream was bad. Even the local recording that's through OBS was bad. I think it might have just been that there was an issue with Zoom and PA's bandwidth, but we'll see. I'm looking at my stream now, and it's slow. Is it slow? Like I'm seeing it and it's loading. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. Okay. Anyways, we'll see how it goes. So I'm thinking it probably was PA and it wasn't the deep state messing with us. Okay. So I showed this a little bit in the interview. The only thing is I wanted to do a dedicated segment to it. So I'll go ahead and show it now by sharing the screen. Let's see. So what you'll see is I was watching TrueStream Media, and it was it kind of went to an old one. I don't know why it went to an old one, but sometimes, when it does, I just go ahead and I just keep watching. So I'm going to play a little bit, and you can see
imposters, but mainly you see family members pressured or intimidated.
Okay, so in this video, go ahead and see it. I was looking at the coroner, which is James M.D. Ribe. I wish I knew how to say it. And this is from Los Angeles County, California. So I was like, okay, he wrote a bogus or weird autopsy, and that's what they're breaking it down with. So I just figured I'd just do a search, and I found a couple of things. And if you go to my Gab, you can actually see it wherever I posted at, whatever. That's where you can see that the main title. And I just ended up just taking screenshots of the doctor, James M.D. Ribe, right? He was the coroner for Michael Hastings, a very conspiratorial death, his car explosion and whatnot. Hi, Shirley. And then I find in some old archive, Gene Guccione, Time staff writer in August 23rd, 2003, there's an article about Dr. James K. Ribe, and it says a state appeals court has thrown out the murder conviction of a Los Angeles man, faulting prosecutors for not telling his defense that deputy coroner who took the witness stand had a history of changing his testimony. The justices cited 5 instances in which Dr. James K. Ribe changed his findings in homicide cases, including one that led to the 1997 release of a woman convicted of murder. And you can see the, actually I'll move this down because I've realized that some of it gets blocked out. There we go. Let's move it down a little bit further. Sorry about that. Okay. So this is the actual article, articles.latimes.com, 2003, August 23rd, local, blah, blah, blah. I'll go ahead and zoom it in. And this is the article. And it goes into, look, had the jury been aware of Dr. Ribe's credibility problems, which would have cast doubt on the prosecution's investigation, the case would have been cast in a different light with a reasonable probability of a different result, wrote Second District Court of Appeals Justice J. Gary Hastings in a unanimous ruling by the 3-member panel. This is, again, back in 2003. And this is the same guy who signed the coroner autopsy report for Michael Hastings. And you can see this is the actual info.publicintelligence.net, Michael Hastings coroner report.pdf. is what I'm looking at. And if you scroll down, we should be able to see it. Give me a second. Come on, where is it? Here we go. James M.D. Ribe, whatever. I mean, we're getting into that coincidental area. And it's I mean, even though it's something that I found, it was something that actually has been written about and tweeted about, although very little. But back then, 2003, Twitter was getting big, but there hasn't always been a lot of followers. So here, Who, What, Why says Dr. James K. Ribe, the pathologist who signed Michael Hastings' coroner report, has some credibility problems. And then this is their article. And this is in August 23, 2013, David J. Krajicek. And it's kind of a short article, so I'll go ahead and read it. I think it might be pretty good. Kind of goes back a little bit on Hastings. So, report: Hastings feared tampering on rented Mercedes. A coroner's report that found traces of narcotics in the remains of journalist Michael Hastings has helped frame the prevailing story of his death as a tragic, troubled soul narrative. He apparently had relapsed into drug use. Just hours before the muckraker was killed in a car crash in Los Angeles, a sibling had arrived to urge him into rehab. But in the broadest postmortem profile to date, Gene Mattis writes in the LA Weekly that Hastings told a neighbor he feared that the rental Mercedes sedan he died in had been tampered with. Mattis writes, one night in June, he came to neighbor Jordana Thigpen's apartment after midnight and urgently asked to borrow her Volvo. He said that he was afraid to drive his own car. She declined, telling him her car was having mechanical problems. He was scared and he wanted to leave town, she says. The next day, around 11:15 a.m., she got a call from her landlord, who told her Hastings had died early that morning. His car had crashed into a palm tree at 75 miles per hour and exploded in a ball of fire. The profile said Hastings was depressed and feared he was being watched by the government. His behavior grew increasingly erratic, Mattis writes. He added, interviews with friends as well as the coroner's report suggest that Hastings' mental health was deteriorating. Hastings, 33, was a crusading journalist who died when his speeding Mercedes slammed into a palm tree at 4:20 a.m., June 18th, on the 35-mile-per-hour stretch of North Highland Avenue in LA's Hancock Park neighborhood. In its report released this week, the Los Angeles County Coroner's Department concluded that the death was an accident. Dr. James K. Ribe, LA County Senior Deputy Medical Examiner, said traces of amphetamine found in Hastings' blood sample was consistent with possible intake of methamphetamine many hours before death. He said traces of marijuana metabolite in his blood also indicated intake hours earlier. Ribe said Hastings died of blunt force trauma consistent with a high-speed front-end impact, that narcotics were unlikely contributory to death. The report's narrative included several mentions of Hastings' alleged use of various narcotics, apparently based largely upon comments from the brother who was attempting to intervene. But another Hastings family member told Who, What, Why that the coroner's report was irresponsible. The family member said via email, the LAPD has done a really sloppy job investigating his case. They were hoping for another load of drugs in his system. When they didn't get it in toxicology lab results, science, they had to insert speculation throughout their field report to compensate for the lack of investigation. It's so irresponsible. Dr. Ribe, who signed Hastings' autopsy report, has been on the LA County Coroner's staff for more than 25 years. Like many big city pathologists, he has been involved in a number of high-profile cases and controversies. But Ribe is the rare coroner whose credibility has been officially called into question by a panel of judges. In 2003, a California appeals court dismissed a murder conviction because prosecutors had failed to disclose to the defense that Ribe, a trial witness, had credibility problems and a history of changing his testimony, according to an account in the Los Angeles Times. The ruling cited 5 instances in which Ribe changed his findings in homicide cases. In addition, Ribe was involved in a controversy concerning the 2005 death of Eliza Jane Scoville, age 3. The coroner ruled that the child died of AIDS. Her mother, Christine Magyar, is an HIV-positive activist and a controversial figure in her own right who has vehemently questioned Ribe's ruling on the cause of death. Finally, although an autopsy can prove that a person was killed as a result of a car wreck, no autopsy can prove whether or not that wreck was arranged. Who, what, why plans to continue doing this kind of groundbreaking original reporting. You can count on it, but we can't blah, blah, blah. Anyways, there's another one. Testimonial flip-flops, a report on Los Angeles County Coroner Dr. James K. Ribe. This is on www.aras.ab.ca. And it's got quite a good amount of stuff. I'm going to kind of look through. Dr. Ribe admits that he reshapes his opinion over time. That is, his medical judgments evolve as he is presented with additional evidence before, during, and after trial. Item 1, Rathbun Sobek. Charles Rathbun, convicted of murdering model Linda Sobek, was nearly acquitted in his 1996 trial because Ribe could not explain the cause of Sobek's death 4 months after he performed her autopsy. He eventually conceded that Sobek's asphyxiation was not accidental, thereby assuring a guilty verdict against Rathbun. During cross-examination, Ribe admitted that he revised his opinion based on the courtroom testimony of another prosecution witness. And item 2, Cauchy. Probably not saying that right. Ribe changed his testimony in another 1996 trial, the prosecution of Deputy District Attorney Daniel Wright for Robert Cauchy of Van Nuys for the alleged torture and murder of his 4-year-old stepdaughter. Because Wright knew of other cases where Ribe revamped his opinion during the course of a trial, he filed an internal memorandum to the District Attorney's Bureau of Special Operations alleging serious errors in Ribe's testimony and reliability. According to the memo, the prosecution was almost derailed by Ribe's surprise reversal of opinion. Item 3, Arce and Urbano. During the 1997 trial of Edith Arce and Roy Urbano of Huntington Park for the alleged starving death of their 3-year-old son. Wow, this is depressing shit. By Deputy District Attorney Dinko Bozanich, a sweeping order was issued by Norwalk Superior Court Judge Dewey L. Falcone demanding transcripts of all testimony by Ribe dating back to 1990, copies of all coroner's reports relating to Ribe's testimony, and all internal memoranda and complaints about Ribe's credibility. Bozanich supported the order because of his consternation that the district attorney's office does not share data about the unreliability of expert witnesses like Ribe with its own prosecutors. Bozanich lamented, "How can I make an intelligent decision on how to prosecute a case when my own office has information that the credibility of a centerpiece witness may be so impaired that it may not only be worthless to put him on, but damaging to the prosecution?" Bosnick said that witnesses like Ribe expose him to the risk of being blindsided. Item 4, and I think there's just 5 items. Wingfield Helms. Ribe's most notorious flip-flop may have occurred after the 1995 prosecution of Eve Wingfield and David Helms of North Hollywood for the murder of 2-year-old Lance Helms. Initially, Ribe testified that Lance died 30 to 60 minutes after he was beaten, and Mrs. Wingfield was with a toddler. Man, another toddler. What the fuck? As a result, Miss Wingfield, although innocent, made a plea bargain under duress, accepting a 10-year sentence for Lance's death. When 2 LAPD detectives who suspected that David Helms was the murderer interviewed Ribe years later, he told them that Lance died instantaneously while he was under the control of David Helms. Ribe disavowed his earlier testimony as just ridiculous, arguing, "I had zero time to prepare." According to the defense attorney Jack Stone, Ribe tailors his scientific opinion to coincide with prosecution theories. Only after the fortuitous revelation Ribe's change of mind was Wingfield released from prison and David Helms finally convicted of murder. What? Item 5, Jacobo Vildosola. Ribe's negligence, if not venality, was responsible for 1997 wrongful murder convictions of William Jacobo Jr. and Patricia Inez Vildosola of Monterey Park after the sudden death of their 20-month-old baby, Destiny. What the fuck? These are all like... man. Ribe contended Destiny was a victim of shaken baby syndrome, a controversial, if not fallacious, diagnosis based upon damage to and hemorrhaging of the brain. Yet Ribe did not provide crucial contrary-coup brain matter to Los Angeles County's chief neuropathologist, Dr. Hideo H. Itabashi. Nor did he present the brain tissue at trial. Evidently, Ribe destroyed or concealed the purported contrary-coup material because it was exculpatory and he wanted to ensure a successful prosecution. Ribe was also withheld evidence that Destiny was suffering from pneumonia and other medical problems, and she was fatally mistreated in the emergency room of Santa Marta Hospital by Joseph Boggs, a doctor who, with a suspended medical license whose licensure was never reinstated. The principal cause of Destiny's death was pneumothorax, the consequence of overaggressive cardiopulmonary resuscitation by Boggs. Although Destiny was dying of acute respiratory distress syndrome caused by pneumothorax, Boggs transferred Destiny out of Santa Marta to another hospital 18 miles away in order to hide his malpractice. Mr. Jacobo was exonerated and released after spending 5 long years in state penitentiaries, but Miss Vildosola, who is equally innocent, remains incarcerated for life. Items 1 through 5 are presented as concise examples for illustrative purposes only and should not be regarded as an exhaustive litany or as a complete accounting of all instances of Dr. Ribe's forensic and testimonial unreliability. I mean, this guy... why is he still working there? I guess you could say, yeah, because he's still working there because yeah, they know they could pay him off. I mean, isn't that like another weird coincidence that you've got a coroner that has credibility issues, and that he was the one who signed off on Michael Hastings' death in a weird... I mean, people are saying that's just like, I was never really woke back then to care about all this stuff, but looking into it now, looking into the past, and you can still look into it. I mean, what else? I mean, this was like 5 years ago. What else could have occurred since then that where Dr. Ribe is the coroner signing off on it? I mean, the pathologist. I mean, someone should look into this guy a lot more. I mean, since 1999, or I mean, since 2003 to now, 15 years, one including Michael Hastings' death. I mean, what else has he been the coroner for? I mean, why isn't there more investigations on his work? Why isn't there someone overseeing his work? I mean, there's already questions into the way he does things. Why isn't there someone overseeing his autopsies? You would think that that's something that would happen. I mean, starting in 2003 with all of his credibility things. So, anyways, maybe other people can look into this. It's not new. It's just something I noticed, and when I looked into it, it's been shown that there have been at least one article written about it. Of course, there's in a community where when you're a small fry, just like I'm a small fry, it doesn't get attention. So hopefully this gives it a little bit more attention. Maybe someone sees it. Someone wants to look into Michael Hastings' death. I know there's a lot of people that are conspiracy theorists like me. Maybe they can find something I don't find. But I just thought it was something interesting to share. So I've shared it. Let's see what happens. All right. So I'm going to do one more maybe before I think James's show will start. Thank you, everybody.